This conference will now be recorded.
Ooh. Good job, Mike. I didn't have to remember. You remembered. I am Elizabeth High with the Economic Development Commission of Florida, Space Coast, and MASC, our manufacturing association, and we are so glad to have so many of you joining today. I know we'll probably have a few more people jumping on as we just kind of do our introduction here and get a little bit started. We're really excited to have an ongoing seminar series for our manufacturing association, and that is brought to you by FPL. They're our seminar series sponsor. We of course have converted those to webinars now, but this webinar today is part of that series. So thank you so much to FPL for your support, and thank you to Florida Makes for being our partner in lots of different ways, but particularly on this this workshop today as we talk about a brand new system for really cataloging the capabilities of our manufacturers in the region and across the state, as well as opening a door for a higher level of supply chain connectivity. So Connex is a really exciting program, and we're really glad to have so many of you joining us today for this first look demonstration. There's going to be lots of opportunities to learn more, but this purpose for today is to really just introduce you to that system. We are recording this session, so it will be available afterwards if anybody wants to log back in and try to kind of remember what they heard and what they saw. We do have a chat functionality as well here in the GoToMeeting, so you can put chats in there, and we will try to follow those along. The agenda for today, which I think is our next slide up, is going to start off with the intro to Connex by Mike Aller with Florida Makes, and then we will have a demonstration. Mike is joined today by Alan Davis with Connex, so we've got like the brains behind the system here as well. So this is really fortunate for all of us to get to really understand the functionality of it. And after we go through that demo, we're gonna get a little bit of user insight, because I did plant some seeds over the last couple of weeks to get some of the local companies to go ahead and get registered and to start playing with the system. So we're going to hear from a couple of companies that have been playing around with it. Some of you on the call may also have been playing around with the system, so we want to hear your insights as well and kind of roll into questions and answers to conclude our webinar today. So I will kind of turn it over now to Mike to tell us all the things so that we can really learn about this program.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, and thanks, everyone. Look forward. Been very excited to be able to bring Connex to Florida and to bring it to you today, to be able to give you a little preview of what the Connex system can do, what it's all about, why we're so excited to be able to have this resource here in Florida, and especially in the time that we're in now, where so many things are up in the air and there's so much disruption going on every day. So first of all, I also want to welcome Alan Davis, who's president of I-5 Services and is kind of the powerhouse behind Connex. Connex, as we'll talk about, is a system that has been implemented in Utah, where Alan is based, but there's also a corollary system which is run by the National Association of Manufacturers, or in association with the National Association of Manufacturers, called Manufacturers Marketplace. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Alan, I don't know if you want to say anything more at this point, or?
No, thank you, Mike. Thanks for letting me be a part of this, and happy to be here and thrilled to be able to answer questions as we go forward and hear the insights. So just thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you for being a part of it. So I did want to highlight a little bit about Florida Makes and the Florida Makes network. Obviously, all of this is done in partnership with a number of partners across the state. We have a wonderful partner here in the Space Coast, in Manufacturers Association Space Coast, with Elizabeth and Linda and the whole team at the EDC and everything that they're doing. But we do have a number of other manufacturers associations that are across the state. we work very closely with them as well, and it's a great opportunity to engage and support manufacturers of all sizes, all shapes, and all colors across our state. And we also have an opportunity to share best practices, take part in each other's events, and it's really a great resource. Florida Makes itself is a service network that's built on top of the Manufacturers Association. So we provide subject matter expertise supporting growth of manufacturers and technology adoption, talent development, and business growth, and working to deliver high impact products and services, increasing the size and value of our manufacturers networks, and helping raise the broader awareness of manufacturing across the state. Florida Makes has been working in Florida for about just past 5 years, and in that time we've had more than $1.5 billion of direct economic impact that has been measured by a series of surveys that have been conducted over the course of the last several years with a subset of Florida Makes manufacturers. So we provide services to a number of manufacturers, and then the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is an affiliate national network that we work with, does an independent third-party survey of a subset of those manufacturers and comes up with direct impacts associated with those. And there's a great story. There's for projects that we're able to provide through our network of business advisors and regional manufacturing associations, average impact per company of $4.5 million, and total jobs created or retained over $10,000 over the course. Over 10,000 jobs created or retained over the course of 5 years. So it's been a great story. It's been a great success, and look forward to even more in the years to come. Now we come to why we were so interested in implementing a system like Connex here in Florida. And one of the projects that we've been involved with at Florida Makes and with several of our partners over the last couple of years is trying to identify some of the impacts that were associated with major storm events. So we had Hurricane Irma about 2.5 years ago that had a major impact across the state. We also had Hurricane Michael a little over a year and a half ago that really impacted the Panhandle quite severely. And so in the course of those, reviewing those events and what happened, we went out and did assessments of over 500 assessments of different manufacturers across the state, and found that nearly half of them identified the fact that they have suppliers for which they have no backups as a major issue in their continuity of their operations during these times, especially in times of crisis. And that's especially true in this time with COVID and everything that's going on. And so we, a couple of years ago, began a process of trying to figure out whether we might be able to create a database of industrial capabilities that we could draw upon with times of need, and designed to be interactive, open to all manufacturing enterprises, but we wanted to focus on a couple areas that were of a special need. So we focused it especially initially on aviation and aerospace, which obviously has a major footprint here in the Space Coast, but also especially with the new issues with the coronavirus and everything that's going on in the public health emergency, we've pivoted that to include medical devices as well. And we wanted this to be able to be searchable by industry and government to help them, help themselves, but also to enable to find new suppliers, to find new avenues for their products, but also for others from outside the manufacturing community to be able to quickly find new resources. As many are looking now for personal protective equipment and medical device manufacturing, and those are things that we think we're able to really support through this process. So very happy to be able to do that. So obviously we want to be able to help connect Florida manufacturers. This is intended to be of, by, and for manufacturers primarily. The manufacturers are the only entities that have access to Connex at this point. In terms of having a login credential and having access to some of the deeper dive information. Anyone can access the Connex portal and see certain public information, and we'll talk about those differences. but there's a lot of resources that are available through the platform. We're primarily focused right now on the industry and the industry capabilities element of this. There are aspects of this platform that also address workforce training, as that's a major issue as well, and research and development, and advanced technologies. Those are elements that we anticipate building out over time, but we've launched this right now primarily focused on the industry community, and especially in the current environment. We moving forward on that as quickly as we can, and we'll be building out these others over time. But the greatest part about Connex is that it allows an amazing amount of visualization of supplier and customer relationships, both for companies for themselves, as well as for allowing them to identify potential alternate suppliers for critical capabilities. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. But there are a lot of different resources that are available that you can see. Some great resources on things that people are searching for. There's different ways to visualize different capabilities that are across the state, and ways to connect into national resources as well. And there are ways to help visualize and gain some value in analysis of your own supply chain and your own value chain. Again, we're extremely happy to be able to partner with Manufacturers Association of Space Coast in rolling this out. This is you can get the Connex directly from MASC's site here, manufacturingbrevard.org/Connex. And this is a screenshot of that page, and you can request an account directly there, get some more information, or follow up as you see fit. I did want to highlight that there are a number of other resources that are out there relevant to COVID. So Connex Florida directly is available at florida.manufacturingconnex.com. We also have a COVID-19 resource page from Florida Makes with a number of different resources relevant to manufacturers and manufacturing in the current environment, whether it defining yourself as essential or helping define new ways to operate in these times where we're all doing distancing and deep cleaning and the rest of those initiatives. Space Coast EDC and MASC have their own resource page, which has a number of wonderful resources as well. And then there is a national manufacturing capability exchange that's available through the manufacturers marketplace, and I5 has been instrumental in getting that set up, and that's available at the link there as well. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and swap over to looking at this from a different perspective. So here we are. So Connex overall has a wonderful, this is what Connex looks like from the front page. There's a number of different resources that you can access from this initial page, and this is something that anyone who comes into Connex can see basically from without having a login at all. This is the front landing page. Actually, I should stop for a moment. Are there any questions about the intro before I go into the demonstration piece? Not hearing any. So there are a number of different visualizations that you can use in Connex, but the ones that we're going to be primarily focused on, as I mentioned, is the industry visualization. So I'll go there in a moment, but I'll just go across the other elements of the nav bar as well. So you can look in terms of visualizations and go and look at an industry sector and narrow it down by a number of different criteria. You can browse organizations and look up an organization essentially by name. So you can look up an organization by name if you wish, or you can use the search function and search for something specific, and we'll go and do that in a moment. But I want to show you what the front page of the visualization looks like at first. So here, as you can see, we have a number of companies, in Connex across the state, and there's a great set of resources here that are available. You can scroll down and pick out individual companies by a number of different criteria. I'm going to pick on a particular company here, which is in this particular company is in Fort Lauderdale area, but it will give you an idea of the types of things that you can have in a profile. And we'll go into a bit more, because this is what you can see from the public side of from the platform, and then there's an additional level that you can see as a manufacturer within the platform. There's a whole another level of information, but you get a good set of basic information here, introduction, basic contact information, and then you can click through to more information and get a basic overview of this company's operations. There's some more information about this particular company does ADA metal, does metal fabrication for shipbuilding and oil and gas and and the defense industry, among others. And they have a lot of good information about contacts, certifications. So there are a number of certifications that we have, recognition. So Betsy McGee, that runs ADI Metal, was listed on the Florida 500 last year. So able to put that up there, as well as a little bit of basic information about their NAICS and their industrial codes. So this is something that basically anyone from the external community can seek and find. There's a lot of good resources that are here, and there's a lot of interesting things that you can look for. For example, if you're interested in finding face masks, there are a number of different folks that are making face masks these days. There's a company in Ormond Beach who's doing this, and we have a little bit of information about that. Basic contact information. There's a lot of different resources that you can find. Again, if you were looking for, say, ventilators, there are a number of folks who make ventilators, and we can highlight. Let's see here. There's Aeron. One here in Melbourne. Aeron obviously is a great story. There's a lot going on with their collaboration between Aeron and Ford, and ramping up ventilators for the nation and for the national stockpile. That's a wonderful, wonderful story, and some collaboration that's happening between folks here in Melbourne to help them scale up production. But there's, a lot of wonderful resources that are available, basic information here on Aeron, but there are a lot of wonderful resources that are available, first through a basic search, and you can find a lot of wonderful capabilities across the network. So one thing that I will highlight as well is, if you're interested in, getting involved in Connex Florida and getting signed up as a for an account, there are a couple ways to be able to do that. So one of those is to click here on the login button and request an account. That will take you to the front page. Another one is simply to go to the front page here, and there's a link right on the front page that will take you to the same place. You fill this out and submit it, and it will we'll get that handled for you. And then there is a third way that you can get involved with Connex, which is through a survey that we have. And there's a survey that, that Florida Makes is doing. It's available on our website through our Recovery and Readiness page. There's some information here and a link to the survey. and the survey comes up in as a separate online suite, and you can go through, fill this out, and it will basically send the same information to request an account in Connex, and we'll be able to preload some information into Connex for that as a result of that as well. And so once you have your account information, once you've managed to set up your login, this is what the login, this is what Connex looks like once you've logged in. So as you can see, when we were on the external side, there was just a couple of buttons here. There are more resources that are available for those of us who have accounts within Connex. And there are more types of visualizations as well. We'll go into those a little bit in a little bit of detail. But the first thing I wanted to do was go back to that same company that we were talking about before, we were looking at before. There we are. And the first thing I want to show you is that there are a lot of, there's all the information that you can see on the public side here in blue, but there's another level of information here in orange, the members only information, which is only available to those who have, those manufacturers who have login credentials and accounts within Connex. And it gives you another level of detail about industry sectors, about specific services and products that are offered. There's another level of information about relevant to capabilities. In fact, you can upload a specific capability statement if you want to, that gives even more information about your company's resources, and that's available to other manufacturers that have accounts. There's a lot of different functionality here relevant to specific materials or equipment that's available within a particular facility, as well as general size information, number of employees, production floor space, etc. Another thing that's of interest is that there's a set of resources, and I'll actually go to a different profile here to show this. This is a company over in the Tampa Bay area. But there is a set of resources where not only are there certifications, but you can click in, and once you have a login, you can click in and see the details of the certification. So you can, you as a company can post this information so that other manufacturers or potential clients could find you. And then, this information is right there and immediately available. In addition, there's a lot of resources that are available in terms of putting specifics on equipment that is really helpful and useful, and especially a lot of this is directly searchable, and so that's a wonderful resource as well. There are other ways to find information in Connex once you are in this element of the platform as well. So you can browse organizations by name. So if we want to go, I know COMPSYS is on the call. So if we want to look at COMPSYS, you can pull them up directly here. And if we want to go to COMPSYS's website, it's very straightforward. Just go straight to the link, and there you are. So you can find out more information that way as well. Another way that you can find information across the platform is through the filter function. So you can go back to the main visualizations page, and if you're looking for pharmaceutical medical devices, and there are lots and lots of different ways that you can filter things, as you can see. But if you're looking for people that have 3D printers, and they might have an ISO certification, and this will show up individual things. So for example, there's a company up in Daytona area, 3D material technology, that hits all of those. And you can go find out more information about them if you were interested, or, for example, I believe, Aeron comes up through this. They meet certain things. And so there's ways that you can sort of narrow down or highlight, how much folks meet certain criteria that you may have fairly quickly. There's another way to do this as well, where if you're to do say, look for specific resources, say in CNC and ISO. So we have 3 folks who come up as doing CNC and ISO, having a CNC capability in ISO. But if you weren't happy with 3, you could also go and you could look at the 3 and check the 3. But if they weren't enough, or if you wanted to find something more, there's an opportunity to expand this to the national platform. And so one of the wonderful things about Connex and the platform that we have is the ability to connect with a national resource, the manufacturer's marketplace, and be able to expand searches across the country if you need a specific capability and you're looking for something very specific. So, and the wonderful thing about this at this time is that through a partnership with Associated Industries of Florida, we've been able to set this up so that anyone who joins Connex will automatically be eligible to also join Manufacturers Marketplace for free during this quarter. So between now and June 30th of 2020, you'll be able to not only set up a platform, your profile within Connex, but you'll also be eligible to set up search and set up a listing in the manufacturer's marketplace, which will enable you to be found on the national level as well as at the state level. So in this sense, we put together a query for CNC and ISO. And so this is, what, looking at the national network, you run this, you can either let it run its own, or you can do the same here in national network. And these are companies across the country that, meet those criteria, and you can, add or adjust those criteria as you see fit. And then there are a number of ways that you can refine the searches here within within the national marketplace platform as well. I won't go into that in any more detail than that at this time, but we may have some additional webinars down the line talking about that connection and how to use that in more detail. Circling back to Connex, we have a number of other resources that I wanted to highlight. One in particular that's of particular interest. Well, actually, before I get to that, as you're setting up your profile and as you're doing a number of things here in the system, excuse me. It changed windows on me. There we go. As we're going and doing this, there are a number of resources that allow you to get started. So here we are under this question button. Once you're signed in, you can go and get a number of resources about how to fill out your basic organizational profile if you're interested in learning more about that. You're talking about the different elements of information, whether it's public information, members only, and we'll talk about confidential in a moment. Or if you want to talk about search and how you go about searching, a variety of ways that you might be able to get more out of those searches that you're doing and customize those, narrow those down a little bit more directly. There are a lot of different resources here that are also how you just browse profiles and find new resources. So there's a lot of good information there. There's information on FAQ. There's information on sort of the privacy and terms as well. And then if you ever have an issue, you can come in here and hit this, and it will automatically send us something to let us know that you're having an issue, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So there's a lot of great resources there on the support side. In addition, we have a number of visualizations here. I'll just go into a couple of these very briefly. So on the search side, we have some visualizations that enable you to see what's been being searched recently. You can see there's a lot of things going on related to certainly the current situation, but there are a number of other things that are being searched as well, and so that can give you some sense of what folks are looking at. In addition, I'm going to go back to the industry page here. There are a number of resources that are available relevant to supply chain, and I'm going to actually move to a different view for the element on the supply chain. So in this sense, relevant to supply chain and relevant to confidential information, obviously, as we don't want to, I'm switching over to a demonstration site to be able to show you sort of demonstration data on how the functionality works. We don't want to be showing individual companies' information or anything along those lines. And we're very clear and focused on keeping the dividing line. So for companies who are on the call and are looking at this, anything that's in the public information is going to be available to anyone who accesses the system. Anything in the members only information is going to be available to anyone who has a login to the system, and then also to those members of your team. But again, only members of your team have access to edit any of this information. And then finally, we have a layer of confidential information, which is relevant to supplier and customer relationships, where if you're interested in using the tool, and we'll show you what the tool can do for you, you're able to enter information on some of your suppliers and your customers and gain some value-added information about that. But this information here under confidential is and will only be available to your team and to a couple of people on the Connex management who are managing the system for everyone. And so we will be able to help you manage this and do that, but we are keeping everything confidential across individual companies and have very strong silos policies along those lines. So I want to show you here what this, obviously this demonstration company has a lot of different resources, put in a lot of information, but you get to their supplier and customer relationships, and they have a number of suppliers that they've put in here, as well as some customers, and they've highlighted what those customers or what those suppliers provide for them, what those customers provide for them. I'll show you in a little bit more detail exactly what this can do. So here is a visualization under the supply chain. This is again under the supply chain visualization, where here's the company. You can see the company. You can see their suppliers here, over here on the left. You can see their customers over here on the right. And immediately you can see that there are some different icons that are here. A couple of these are flagged, and we will show. So essentially, what happens is once you as a company put in some information about a supplier of yours, that information gets run against a couple of different resources. One is the system looks at the company that you're putting in and runs that against a couple of government watch lists to make sure that they aren't on a contractor ban list, that they aren't on a export watch list or something along those lines, or on one of the Department of Treasury financial laundering lists. As well as it also looks at what that company, what you've said that company does for you, and whether or not that company, there are others in their chain that also provide that service. So in this particular case, it is Spock Scientific, they provide a set of services that no one else provides, and so there's a single supplier risk flag that's been placed on that. But there's a wonderful resource here in that if you identify, as you identify what those relationships are, you can highlight specific things that that a company provides for you. You're getting down into individual details. There are a number of drop downs here that you can highlight. And then there are a number of resources related to, how good a relationship this is, how financially stable you view that relationship is, and the system will develop kind of a risk profile of that supplier for you as well. So that provides a great resource for you as you're pulling this together. But the other really wonderful aspect of this functionality is that you also have the ability to identify alternates. So if you come here, you have a single supplier and you want to see if you can find some alternates that might be able to provide that service for you instead. The system will develop a list of folks that it thinks might match what you're looking for, and identify those. And as you can see, there are a couple that are in different places. This is our demo site, so we have some folks from all over the country who have been thrown in here as resources. But it will identify these basically by closest or by closest match. There are a number of different sort of filters that you can apply to that. And then there's also some information to be able to export that, so you can do additional research if you want. In addition, if you were interested in going and finding more information about a particular company, if they have a profile in the system, you can go directly to their profile, and it'll take you to their profile to find more information about them. I'll go back here. So that's a wonderful resource that you have. Likewise, on the customer side, there's a number of things that you can highlight here. So you can edit relationship, you can highlight specific things that you provide to the customer. In the same way, there are ways that you can also upload, batch upload customer information or supplier information, and that we'll have additional training about that particular aspect, but there's a lot of different resources that you can bring to bear in that process. So let me go back here. So are there any questions at this point relevant to Connex and how you might be able to use it for your particular organization?
Mike, with regard to the visualization that you just showed for the supply chain, that would only be available to the user, correct? That's in the confidential component where they would see that visualization of our supply.
Yes, that's correct. That is in the confidential component of the platform, and only the company would be able to see their own visualization of their own suppliers, and then be able to access those tools to evaluate those suppliers or those customer relationships as they see fit, and use that for their own benefit.
Thank you. And
thanks, Elizabeth. That's actually.
Oh, go on.
Oh, you're first. You go ahead.
Well, I had an unrelated question. There was another question that came in through the chat about the connectivity. Mike, you talked a lot about the connectivity of this system to that national system, the manufacturing marketplace. One of our participants mentioned a system that Enterprise Florida has for the Florida Defense Contractors database, and wondered if there was any connectivity there. That's a system that has already been populated with some of the defense contractors in the state of Florida, and perhaps it could be an easy connection point to feed information into this system. His inquiry was whether or not any of that connectivity has occurred yet.
It has not occurred yet. We are actively in conversations with Enterprise Florida on a number of fronts, and so we will see how we are able to manage that as those conversations go forward. That's probably as much as I can say about that at this point. Yeah, there's more to be explored, I think, there relative to this. Obviously, Connex is a relatively new system. We've had it. We launched it earlier this month, so we've just kind of getting the core elements of it set up. But yes, there are a number of different partnerships that we've been exploring along those lines.
Thank you.
And, thanks, Mike. This is Scott Lewitt at Structural Composites. Appreciate you doing all this.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Elizabeth asked my first question. So supply chain only visible internally, right? And that's good.
Yes, that's correct.
Otherwise,
that's correct.
I want to force you to create a competitor. Oh, here's all their customers. Here's all their suppliers.
No.
Yeah.
No, doesn't.
Good.
Yeah.
So just a couple thoughts here. Now, the national market, we can reach out to it, and I assume we appear on it at the same time. Is that a fair statement?
I believe that, well, Alan may be able to answer that. Alan, I believe you're on mute, but so you have the option to create a profile on the manufacturer's marketplace and then bring over information from Connex to populate that, is my understanding. And there's a certain level of information that fills that.
Yeah, Mike, right now, for the COVID-19 response period, which right now we're running that out through the end of June, you're able to get access for free, as Mike mentioned, into the national platform. And what that does is it gives you an annual subscription for free. And as long as you keep your information up to date and you remain active in the national platform, that subscription will automatically renew for free in perpetuity. So it's a great opportunity. Not all data, as of right now, not all of your data will map exactly from the regional into the national platform, as there are some nuances to the data that are a little bit different. But some of that data will definitely port over, but I would definitely make sure that both profiles are filled out well, and anything that doesn't come over, just make sure you keep it up to date in both sides, and that'll improve over time as we continue to kind of work out what some of those nuances are going to be between the regional and national. And
Great.
Both ways, you're going to have a great opportunity of being found by loads of other manufacturers.
Great.
Alan, sorry,
yeah, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to have a point of clarification. This is Zoraida with Florida Makes. When you say regional, you mean the state platform, like Connex,
Yeah,
up to the national one, right?
Yeah, Connex, exactly. Yep.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay, so just so everybody's clear, maybe just a little more, read it back to you. When we join Connex, then we're gonna have to make a separate joining to the national one, or is it automatic? And that'd be the first question. Is there a link we have to go someplace else?
Yeah, so you notice that link that Mike showed you that says expand my search nationally? When you click on that link, it'll actually just bring up one page that'll say, right now it actually has your free promotional code on the page. It's just COVID-19 And when you put in that code, then it'll automatically set up your account in the national marketplace. And from then on, you're actually seamlessly transferred between the two systems.
Great. So then we're linked, and then as I update Connex, it's going to update the national system automatically.
Yeah, and some of that's not entirely there, so I would definitely check it right now, as we're kind of, we didn't anticipate moving quite as fast as we're moving right now, but the time is right and the demand is there, and so we're trying to get all that synced as fast as we can. So if you notice something that's not syncing, just make sure that you update it on both sides, and as quickly as we can, we'll make sure that all those things are syncing accurately.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Anything you get free for perpetuity, we're quite interested in, of course. So, so just a couple of quick comments, and I'll let others go. You know, I like the filters that you have there for ISO, things like that. Just a suggestion to add an ITAR filter and a small business filter button.
Yep.
Yeah, there is a small business filter, I believe, and
okay,
a
little colored.
You
button.
can search on it. Yeah.
Okay. This one's a little harder for you guys to think about. There's a lot of companies that are flexible. I'm going to call it a flexibility factor. But there's a lot of companies that are flexible. They're willing to adapt and buy things or do things to gain a new customer. And not everybody's willing to do that. Okay. And so, you know, we're here in the marine market, and like we go up to the space industry, emerging commercial space, and we kind of go, gee, if we had this or that, maybe we could work with these guys. It would be really nice if we had some kind of marriage making, you know, dating, I don't know what you want to call it, mentoring, you know, something that, you know, like guys here moving into Melbourne Airport go, man, it'd be really nice if somebody around the block could do this for me. And then you have these guys are really flexible. They'll jump over hoops to do anything. Go call them up, even if they don't have the capability.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things. So first off, Mike didn't show you the Exchange Center, but I think he'll have just a minute or two where he can show some of the basics of the Exchange Center, which is a place for RFPs, RFQs, RFIs, basic needs, surplus materials, where you can go in and say, hey, I need this, or you can go look and see what other companies are posting about what they need. When those are created, also, you can choose who you notify. So you can notify just small businesses, or you can create a custom list, or just educational institutions, whatever that list needs to be for distribution. So that's one way in which that happens. And then the other way is obviously with the MEP relationships you have, they're also assisting with this and making sure that you know, those kinds of things are being tracked and notified and identified. I'm getting calls like this constantly, as you can imagine, in COVID-19, but I had a really interesting call just yesterday. Some organizations, largely distributors, right, who have been primarily buying overseas, would like to shift as much of that business to the US as possible. And they're saying, look, who are the manufacturers who are flexible, who can help us, who will work with us? We would even be willing to do joint ventures with them, to stand up facilities, just loads and loads of opportunities like that. We're beginning to post those into the Exchange Center. So you'll see it in the Exchange Center in the national marketplace, and also we're working on the functionality now to replicate back down to Connex. We've always been going up, but we haven't been bringing it back down. And so we're working on that functionality now, but make sure you're checking the connection centers and Exchange Center in both platforms as we're starting to post those things. So those are two ways right now. I don't know if that fully answered your question or
well, that's good. That's good. That's good. But you know, you're saying the same thing, and you know, maybe it's a future button that's a flexible supplier button that you put on there that goes, you know, that might be a good, you know, button. Flexible, agile supplier, disruptive innovator.
And don't forget that we also have a network of people behind this. So we have folks like Elizabeth and John Nadar, who's the business advisor in the Space Coast region, and a number of other folks, myself and others, who, you know, are out in the community and know each of, you know, many of our manufacturers personally, and are able to, you know, supplement and add to the resources that are available, you know, through this platform. So there are ways to, you know, address those both, you know, with with the networks that we have, and then expand them, through efforts like this as well.
I think what Scott was kind of alluding to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's hard. This is an awesome program, and I'm excited to kind of tap into it more and learn more about it. But like for us, because we are a small company, we do think outside of the box on multiple levels. And so without having relationships with these various companies on the website, you're just reading the description and where they're located and what they're capable of doing. Without having an inside relationship, you don't really know, you don't have that in-depth relationship where okay, well, so-and-so ABC company, well, I know that they're willing to do X, Y, or Z, whereas this Inc. is cut, dry, ISO, corporate. I think that's what Scott is saying. And Scott, I don't think they're going to have a magic Scott Lewitt button on here, but I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, and certainly I appreciate hearing that as well, because it's really easy for us to note things like, an agile supplier as an example. I think that's a great idea, and I have it written down, and I'll be talking to developers about that later today. But we've also had, there's other things that are coming along that you'll be able to see, right? So supplier ratings and, places where you'll be able to better visualize those, for example, who have cybersecurity certification. And I know the MEPs are really great about helping with the training and helping companies come up to speed on things like that. So a lot of those things you'll see coming as well. But I'm on a lot of these calls because I want to hear directly from you, your thoughts, your ideas, and you'll find that those make it into the platform very quickly. So thank you for that feedback, and I appreciate it. Elizabeth, I know you were wanting a couple of organizations to share some initial thoughts as well. I don't know if that was something that we're still trying to fit in. I recognize we're coming up on our time here.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't know, Mike, do you have any more of the demo part, or do you want us to kind of go into some of those insights and just keep doing Q&A?
Mike, we can't hear you.
Mike, we can't hear you. Did you go away? Well, we can go. So Scott Lewitt was one who actually just spoke. He and his team were the ones that were just asking those questions, and they have been playing with the system for a little while. So they were able to give us some good insight. We've also got Brian Holzberg with Space Coast Cable and Harness. Brian, are you on the call? I know you've been kind of playing with the system as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I have not dwelled deeply into this, but we did sign up for it. I was free marketing. It was free marketing. And when you want to find somebody, the system seems very straightforward, user-friendly, and that's great for somebody like me because I'm not real tech savvy. So it seems very easy to work through the system, and has a lot of information in there. Just like anything else, how much time you spend on it, how much you're going to get out of it.
Yep, perfect insight.
Thank you, Brian. And I know we've got Chris Manka, we've got a couple of his colleagues from Tavalco on the call as well. Do you have any insight to share? I know you've been exploring it a little bit as well, really just over the last day.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the search function is really easy to use, and the overall usabilities and function is overall really easy to use. One thing I wanted to say, and I think that Mike did briefly cover it, when you're building your business profile, the search functions and the words that you're searching for, where do those words pull from in your business profile? And how do you build your profile to know what words that you want to put in there so that when you're searching, you want to include those words in your business profile so that, you know, another business, when they're searching for that, you want to have that built in your profile.
I'm not sure why we can't hear from Mike right now, but you're absolutely right. It's so critical, so important, right, that you get those keywords in there. So that description section that you saw up at the top of the profile is really important to get your information in there. And I would list out as much detail as you'd like about your organization, specifically with keywords that will help someone find you. And then the other sections, especially under the member data, where you talk about your processes, your equipment, your materials, all those kinds of things that have a lot of good keywords in them that people will search for, that will find you. Make sure that those things are completed and filled out well. You know, I've sat down with a lot of companies and kind of walked through this process with them. And it's interesting, you know, and coming back to kind of your agile supplier, to the agile supplier comment from earlier as well, as you start talking to a company about what they do, not what they produce, but what they do, right? There's a big distinction. It's important that you state what you do in addition to what you produce, so that your capability is searchable. It becomes a place where people can find your capability. And so thank you, that's absolutely spot on.
Okay,
so the entire thing is searched? Is that kind of it?
Yes.
When you put a keyword, it searches all fields?
Everything. So everything is searchable. So and the search capability on this is really hard to kind of show and explain how absolutely dynamic and adaptable the search capability is. But it will search on everything that you put in. So
okay.
No matter where that word's put in there, it will come up, and it'll tell whoever ran the search, it'll tell them where it found that keyword as well. So you'll notice right here, it says aerospace right up at the top, the little red box there, or orange box, I can't quite tell the color, but that says that, you know, that was found, or that's the filter that's placed on. So this happens to be in the filter side. On the search side, it shows which fields that keyword was found in. So that also helps give you a relevancy factor as you're looking at it.
And this is Mike. I'm back. Sorry, somehow I got kicked off, but here.
Welcome back.
Go ahead.
So did we answer that question for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That answered it great, and that's all I've got. Overall, it's a great system, and we appreciate you guys providing that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other companies that are on the call that have already had a little bit of experience in working through the system? Like I said, in advance I'd spoken to a couple of companies, but I know that some of you have already requested your user access and started to populate things. Does anyone else have any insights as you've started to get familiar with this system? Hearing none. What other questions might you have? And Mike, do you have any further information that you wanted to show us, since we lost contact with you for a little while?
No, at this point, I think, you know, we've shown the basics. I think, again, there are a couple of different resources that are out there people can take advantage of, either through our website, Florida Makes, through the MASC website, through manufacturingbrevard.org. There are a number of resources in both those spots, as well as through the Connex system itself, and happy to follow up further for anyone who has additional requests, wants more information separate from this.
And Mike and Elizabeth, there might be some value in maybe a follow-up presentation, you know, in a couple of weeks, also to kind of show the Exchange Center, maybe give a little bit of a demo on how to work the national platform as well, for those who are trying to get some value out of that. and also to get some more feedback from those who had a little bit more time to take a look at it and use it.
Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
a great idea.
Yep, that'd be great. We'd like to see that.
So all you manufacturers on the call, your mission is to tell your friends, tell your network of your supply chain to get involved in this system. We want it to be as useful as possible, and that means we really need it to be fully populated. So we need as many companies putting their information in here so that we can help to share your capabilities and you can identify the supply chain that you need.
Right. And that's for Florida only. So if we had somebody in Tennessee or something, they wouldn't be in there, right? They have to go through their own state or something. Is that a fair statement?
Well,
Yeah, or they'll be.
There are. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say you can add suppliers for your own purposes of looking at your supply chain. You can add suppliers in other states. You can add suppliers in other countries, for that matter, within the confidential element of this, and that's fine. In terms of the public element of it, yeah, we're primarily keeping it for Florida entities, Florida-based entities at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you're searching, if you want to find someone in Tennessee, or if you are working with someone in Tennessee, you want to encourage them to get in, just have them go to the national marketplace or ask their state if they have a solution in their state, or you can always send them our direction, and we can help them find those resources too.
Okay. Yeah, not too many states like ours with you guys and EDC. So great job. Thank you.
And there was a question just in the chat, just to clarify, there is not a cost to our regional manufacturers. This is being made available through the Regional Manufacturing Association, which is MASC, part of the EDC. It kind of falls under our EDC umbrella, and that's enabled through our partnership with Florida Makes. Florida Makes is funding this program as the official representative of the NIST Manufacturing Extension Partnership National Network here in Florida. So this really is a service and a tool for you. We want our manufacturers to be successful. We want to bolster that domestic supply chain as much as we can. And this is a tool that will help you to achieve that.
Terrific.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Great tool.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Great tool.
As we would probably say in New York, good stuff.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Mike, great job.
Thank
Thanks, Patrick.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Good job. Thank you. Good with that. Gosh, that.
Yes, we're done.